Welcome to Mears & Sons, your one-stop shop for information and entertainment. I'm Cameron.
I'm Assad.
And today we're doing a part 2 to the original video where we talked about doing what you love. And today we're going to be talking about focus, and he's telling another story.
Yeah. So last week we talked about doing what you love, and a great lesson that my mom taught me. And then today I'm going to share the second lesson that I learned from her. There was a lot of great lessons she taught me, but I thought this will be a good one, especially what is happening now. We all struggle with staying focused. I am as guilty as anybody else out there that I cannot keep my attention at something for more than 2 minutes, right? And then you start to think about why that is, and what you realize is that there are too many external factors that are constantly taking or diverting our attention. So you see, you go in meetings, you see people that instead of actually being engaged, involved, they are on their phones, texting, checking emails, you name it. Same thing at home even. It has gone so bad that now you even see that families that are sitting and eating dinner, okay, they are doing the same thing. So much for family dinners and everything. So much for that quality time, right? So now the quality time is with the social media, with your YouTube, whatever the case may be. So I have been thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, maybe there is a great lesson that I learned from my mom that I can share with everybody. So here it goes, all right? So when I was growing up, okay, and I would see my mom every time she is about ready to do something, regardless of how big or small the task was. She would always start with this phrase of Bismillah, okay? Of course, there is a religious component to it, but more importantly, I think there is also the psychological aspect to it as well, that a lot of time we don't understand, or we just always look at it, oh, this is a religious thing that a lot of people say, but no, there is actually a psychological piece to it as well. So she would do that. She would start with that, and it simply means that I am beginning this task in the name of Allah, or I'm beginning this task, okay, in the name of God. So I, growing up, I'm a kid, I'm watching my mom, doesn't matter what the task is. So she's always, anytime she's starting something, she would start with Bismillah, and even if she's about ready to watch her favorite TV show, okay, turning on the TV or starting the show, she's starting with that. If she's going to make a dish for us, prepare something for us, whatever the case, always. So one day I asked my mom, I'm like, what is this that anytime you do anything, you're always starting with that? And so I always, when you're learning different religious concepts or whatever, you're always looking at it from the standpoint of, oh, okay, it's a religious saying that, okay, anytime. So I always thought of it as, okay, I'm about ready to do some sort of a religious practice, okay, or I'm about ready to pray or whatever, I'm starting with that phrase. But here I'm seeing her, and she's doing everything, starting with that. So so as a kid, that was a legitimate thing for me. It was like, okay, well, why are you doing this? You're about ready to watch your favorite TV show. That's not a religious practice. So what's up with that? So one day I asked her this question, and I'm like, okay, Mom, so why are you always starting with this? And her answer was just phenomenal. She said she explained it to a kid level at that time. So first she said, the reason I do this is because I want the best for you. Okay, I'm like, oh, great. Okay, I buy that. But what's about watching the TV? Are you doing that for me too? So then she explained to me that by saying this, it allows her to put everything else outside of her box at that moment and laser focus on the task, the activity ahead of her. And of course, it didn't make any sense to me at that time. When you're a kid, you're like, okay, sure, Mom, whatever. But it all started making sense to me when I was at college and start taking psychology classes, and all of a sudden I realized that, wow, there is such power in actually allowing your mind and your body to say, okay, everything else to the side, this is where I am. At this moment, I am focused on this. Because, when you start to think about how to create focus, that is actually the opportunity, is you have to tell your mind to focus that, hey, this is the starting point. This is the beginning of this activity, this task, whatever the case may be. So you have to tell your mind and your body to do that, because otherwise, it will take your mind and your body to process what is about ready to happen, or by that time you have already started that activity, and your mind and your body, they're still in another state, and here you are, you start this activity. You never told your mind that put everything else to the side to focus here. Okay, so it used to be a lot easier that you could do that because you did not have the influence, the external influences. But now the problem is, here you are in the meeting, okay, you haven't told your mind that I'm there, I need to focus on this. And as your mind start to prepare itself, okay, I need to get engaged in this activity, then all of a sudden your phone rings, a text shows up, okay, a notification shows up, email show up, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden your mind, because it hasn't actually processed that this is the reason I'm here, it automatically, oh, here's a new thing. So it automatically goes to the new thing, and there goes your engagement, your focus to whatever you're supposed to, because then a new thing came in for your mind to go chase. So this is not so much about, I'm not portraying this as a religious thing. What I have learned is that you need to establish a trigger. You need to establish some sort of a switch.
Yeah, it's like putting a concrete start to an abstract idea.
Yeah, but you gotta have some sort of, you gotta have some way of telling your mind, like, okay, I'm starting.
Yeah.
So some people, they can use the word mantra. Some people can say it's a trigger, switch, a key phrase, key word, whatever the case may be. My message would be that, hey, here's your opportunity. Come up with whatever that is. Come up with your own mantra. Come up with your own way of switching your mind and telling your mind to put everything else to the side. This is it right here at this very moment. This is what I have to focus. Okay?
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's extremely powerful, that having some sort of a trigger, some sort of a mantra that actually allows you to accomplish that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when we would go to watch Hannah play soccer and stuff like that, every time before they started, the coach would always get all the girls together and make sure that they are all paying close attention to them, and then tell them what they gotta do and stuff like that, and just having, form that little semicircle, whether you're kneeling or sitting doesn't matter. It's sort of having a physical action to be like, this is the game, we are starting, let's go.
That's a fantastic example. That's a great example, because what the coach is doing at that very moment is helping them, their minds and their bodies, okay, to switch.
Yeah.
Hey, now we are going to play this competitive game. You better get your body and your mind in this thing.
I mean, it
and
always
put
worked
everything
for
to the
'em.
side. Yeah, it does.
'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, they always do pretty good.
Absolutely. There is a lot of power to it. There's a lot
Yeah.
of power to it. Yeah. So, but there is another another funny component to it as well, which I learned a lot later in my life, and it may have been one of you guys that actually triggered that thought. Okay. Because to this phrase that mom used to say with Bismillah, right, there was a second part to it as well. The second part talks about the mercy, the passion, okay, the the encouragement piece. That's the second part of this entire phrase. So the phrase goes as that: I'm starting in the name of God, who is very merciful, very compassionate, very forgiving. So
Is that all in Bismillah, or is there a second?
Yeah, that's the second part of
okay.
it. Okay. So then it's like, okay, and I think it was maybe one of you guys like, okay, well, get the first part. What's the point about the second part? Okay. So it helped me start to think about the second part, which was like, why is the second part there? Just think about that. What a powerful phrase that it takes the burden off of you. It actually allows you to think that it's perfectly okay if the task doesn't get completed as I intended to get completed. If I fail at this, it's perfectly okay. I mean, just think about the how much pressure is actually lifted off of you.
Yeah.
Then you are truly focusing with your heart, with your mind, without trying to censor yourself, without trying to restrict yourself. So that part actually, it, like I said, learned much later in my life, and I always found it to be very, very helpful, is because, it's okay. All right, who cares? If it doesn't turn out the way it needs to turn out, because I always have another chance. I can try it one more time.
Yeah.
But it took that psychological pressure away from, and you truly can actually get engaged. And actually, the other part of it is you can actually have fun and enjoy, versus always worrying like, oh, what if it goes wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that's really true. There was this one book that I was reading, and it was talking about how, I mean, of course, it was talking about it from, like, the political experiment side of things, but it applies in all aspects of life, which is that a failure is just a longer victory. Because from that failure, you find out, why did it go wrong? Where did my fault come into play? Did I not account for XYZ, stuff like that? And especially now, I think far too many people are scared of failing.
Yep.
And especially with the way that culture is, where it's like everything needs to be ideal immediately. It's very hard to grasp that idea without consciously telling yourself that even if I fail, I'm good in the end. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well, I think we should do another video on this topic of failure, but I'll just share this with you. If you think about it, right? You're not that old, but in your this short life, right? Just think of all the things that you actually remember. okay, you will find that you remember the mistakes that you may have made, the failures that you may have encountered in a lot more detail than the successes that you had,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
good moments that you may have had.
Yeah, I mean, like every time like I speak or something, I don't remember at all how I spoke. I usually go completely blank during it because that's the only way I can get through it because if I
Focus, Cameron.
yeah.
Keep going.
And from there, then it usually like, for example, let's say that I were to look back on the MLK speech right now. I couldn't tell you a single sentence I said, but I can remember every time I stuttered.
Yeah. No, it was a good one. I loved it. It was a great speech. It was a fantastic speech. But yeah, that's the thing, so, but the only way that happens is when you allow yourself to make a mistake. It's okay. You allow yourself to fail. It's perfectly okay. And that's why I always love this phrase that my mom taught me at a very, very early age, and I saw her repeat it over and over again, which is, it was like, first, hey, I'm starting this thing, and then I'm laser focused. And then what an empowering second part, which is, it's okay if I make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because my creator is forgiving, my creator is very compassionate, he's very merciful, so it's perfectly okay if I don't do it the way it's supposed to be done. If it's so what an uplifting and encouraging way of going and focusing on completing a task.
Yeah. It's very beautiful, honestly.
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
amazing thing.
Yeah. Now, here's another interesting thing. So she would end it. So she had a phrase for ending it as well.
What was that?
So it was Alhamdulillah, which means that thank you, God.
Yeah.
So so who would know, right? So who would know? Okay, she's done with this. So when she's done watching her TV show, she would say that, and we're like, all right, Mom is done watching her show. Fantastic, okay. Or she would say that, and we're like, oh, whatever she's preparing for us is done. So that means now we can enjoy it. So that was another verbal cue that she gave us, like, okay, I'm done. Now, if you're going to go watch your cartoons or whatever you're going to do, I'm done with this. Go do this. Now you can do your thing, or I can go focus on something else. So if I can leave a message with everybody, right, the message would be pretty simple. Don't look at this from a religious perspective or context whatsoever. That's not the goal here.
Mm-hmm.
The goal here is quite simple, which is, in today's environment, we have such a hard time staying, first of all, focused, and then staying focused. Okay, so the idea behind it would be, come up with your own mantra, come up with your own trigger, a switch that somehow when you say that, it doesn't even have to be verbal. It could be something, whatever works for you. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Sometimes, it's some sort of a noise, or whatever.
Yeah.
But come up with some sort of a trigger, some sort of a switch, some sort of a mantra that when you do that, then your mind automatically recognizes, time for me to just put everything else to the side, and I am going to go stay focused on this task that is ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I also would emphasize the last part, also have a word, a trigger, a mantra, whatever, to actually say when you are done. So then your mind is also trained to think, okay, I am done with this task.
Yeah.
Now I need to go move on to something else. I don't need to stay focused on this. So it's all about training your mind how to stay focused.
Yeah, and I think training is a really good word to use because for most people, this trying to do something like that's not going to happen immediately. I mean, like, what was it, like 2 3 weeks ago? We had the circle of Dicker thing, and like that in itself was a great way of training. It doesn't have to be religious, of course. You can apply that just through like meditating or
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there and focusing on one task, small tasks at a time. But even just that 30 minutes that I spent sitting in the circle where we were just focusing on every word that we said and just think about the context, the meaning of every single word. And even just those 30 minutes has helped a lot in gaining that ability to focus. So every bit of practice starts
Mm-hmm.
something amazing, and if you continue at it, you will become capable of laser focus.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it goes back to just a very, very simple things, an intentional act. That's all. You all you're doing is you're telling your mind, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
This is what I'm focusing on. So, I mean that would be the message that we would have for you guys is to come up with your own mantra, trigger, switch, whatever you want to call it, okay, and practice that, and you will be surprised then all of a sudden that these external disruptions, they will actually start to go away. They will not bother you anymore, and you can stay focused. So, two things, right? One, come up with the trigger, mantra, switch, whatever for the beginning, and then also have something for the end. So that way, you tell your brain, I'm starting, and when you're done, you also tell your brain, I'm done. So now you go check your messages, check your Facebook status, whatever you do. So that way you're not distracted. Okay. Hopefully you guys you will find this helpful, and I'm hoping that you will come up with some sort of a phrase, mantra, switch, whatever, and share with us in the comment section. Tell us what is your mantra, what is your switch trigger that helps you focus. We would love to hear from you, and maybe we can pick one or two from there.
All right. Yeah. I mean, take care, stay healthy, and focus.
Yeah, focus.